It's been a long road, but at last, the end is in sight. For 3 years, we've patiently waited for more info on The Last of Us Part 2, ever since its reveal back in 2016. Last week, Naughty Dog finally released a story trailer, along with preview footage, and the cherry on top, the launch date, February 21st, 2020. Up until this point, trying to gather the basic outline of Part 2's plot proved a complicated task. The very first trailer hinted at an Ellie eager to take revenge. The second one showed a mysterious new character, accompanied by 2 allies attempting to escape from a vicious cult, while the demo at E3 last year teased new gameplay mechanics, as well as a brief glimpse of Ellie's life prior to the crucial events which set her on this rage-fueled journey. Safe to say, the essential pieces of the puzzle were still missing. And unfortunately, I'm afraid to admit that despite the most recent trailer being so heavily story-focused and giving us new information to speculate about, honestly, the most important details remain tough to figure out. At first sight, trying to put together what is going on seemed pretty easy. The latest trailer follows a linear structure, meaning just about every scene we've been shown can be understood from a general point of view. However, anyone who carefully studies the details will come to the same conclusion, and that's that we're being tricked, more than likely several times, and that just about any theory you could come up with can be debunked all the same. Therefore, I'll try my very best to lay out every possible scenario, keeping an open mind while leaving the most likely connections and explanations for the later parts of this video. I say that because if anything has become clear to me, Naughty Dog is proving that tunnel vision can be your biggest enemy. The Last of Us Part 1 ended with Joe and Ellie making their way back to Tommy's camp, where according to Naughty Dog, they've managed to live in relative peace for 4 years. This is exactly where the latest trailer, and I presume their side of the story in the game, picks back up. But I think before we dive in, it's important to remember where things left off to understand the mind state of these 2 protagonists right now. Joel lied to Ellie about the Fireflies, and more importantly, she knows he did. Ellie may not realize the full scope of his lies, namely the fact that he killed Marlene and lots of her men to save Ellie from being sacrificed for the greater good, but she is very much aware Joel did not tell the full truth and had no choice but to accept it. Because of this, their relationship has noticeably changed in the meantime. Ellie is clearly not as comfortable around Joel anymore. This can be seen in the way she reacts in the E3 demo already, when a new character, Jessie, complains about Joel's habits to be overly protective and involved. She looks visibly saddened, relating so deeply to his thoughts.
Another big lecture about my patrols. Don't go here, don't go there. It's funny how involved it gets whenever you're scheduled to go out.
Yeah.
Instead of the lie being used as some great plot device that will change her perspectives completely when she finds out, it forms the base, the main reason for their relationship already not being as stable as it used to be. Don't expect any massive twist, it's already exactly why she initially takes this journey on without wanting the help of Joel. Will Ellie eventually discover the full length of his actions? Chances Joel will confess the truth eventually are high, but it's whether their connection can mend and they can reconcile, which will undoubtedly form a main thread through the story. Then again, Joel and his brother Tommy are just about the only characters Ellie knows for certain she can at least feel safe around. They both know her big secret, the fact that she is immune, which she appears to be hiding from everyone else. Even in the presence of her best friend Deena, she wears a gas mask in buildings with spores to prevent giving it away. The huge tattoo, which we've seen since the announcement trailer, is there for a practical reason. She uses it to cover up the infected bite mark on her arm. Her reasons for doing this are obviously that she's at risk. If anyone finds out about her immunity, word will spread and those with the wrong intentions will go and find her. There are still some Fireflies left, how many we are unsure about, though it means that there are people in this world with the knowledge that this girl is still out there who could provide the cure to the infection and be sacrificed to save mankind. A small group of press were able to play through the 2 portions prominently featured in the trailer. The demo that starts off in Jackson appears to be taking place near the beginning, the one in Seattle during summertime some months later, and thus you'd assume the second quarter of the game if it follows a similar seasonal approach. A detail worth paying attention to is that in this second demo, Ellie is apparently looking for Tommy, who ran into trouble with a military faction. This adds up with how it's Tommy she's speaking to about her quest in the trailer, leading me to believe he is the one who accompanies her for a short while first, while Joel is forced to stay behind. Eventually, Tommy's capture then gives Joel a just cause to chase Ellie down once his own brother is in need of being saved.
What the hell are you doing here?
You think I'd let you do this on your own?
However, it's the first demo especially, and all the scenes pertaining to it, which raise the key questions for me in this trailer. Ellie's relationship with Deena will be focused on during the early hours, for reasons I could only imagine to be that they become a driving factor later on. At one point, Ellie loses Deena in a large snowstorm. We see how she discovers a house and finds a way inside where she is ambushed. After begging her captivators to please stop, the screen cuts to black, followed by the sound of a gunshot and Ellie screaming in terror.
Please stop! No!
It is undoubtedly a harrowing event that deeply impacts her, emphasized upon by the aftermath, where we see her completely beaten up and in conversation with Tommy about this desperate desire for payback. Given by all the build-up, there is a clear direction Naughty Dog is purposefully steering us to think towards. We're meant to believe it's Deena who was killed, causing Ellie to become filled with rage and wanting to take revenge. E3 2018's demo had already made this the popular theory, seeing Ellie wear Deena's bracelet as she brutally executed one cult member after the other. But before we proceed, let's take a step back first. Is that what is truly going on here? First and foremost, I had a feeling from the start that this trailer contained a few elements of misdirection. Deena's supposed death is kept off screen, while Naughty Dog itself remains coy about what exactly this traumatizing event entails. The press then later confirmed that some of the scenes within this trailer were in fact not connected at all. In their 1-hour demo in Jackson, they actually found themselves within the very same snowstorm losing Deena, but indicated that, unlike implied by the trailer, Ellie eventually finds her back. The opening scene in which Deena asks her to rate their kiss actually takes place after this moment. It's flat out confirmation that the story in the game is not as clear-cut as it was shown to us in here. Not that this should come as a surprise to anyone who pays attention to these kinds of things. You may recall the original Last of Us story trailer, which ended on a series of shots hinting at an Ellie on the brink of killing Joel. Uncharted The Lost Legacy's trailer did a similar thing, showing Nadine apparently pointing her gun at Chloe and the two fighting each other within a helicopter while hiding Orca, Shoreline's new leader, who later turned out to be the real target in the game. Let's just say Naughty Dog has developed a habit of deceiving us. Knowing this, it basically makes our ability to solve this trailer impossible. The sound of a gunshot, as well as Ellie screaming in desperation, could have easily been added in. An entirely different character could have fell victim to this moment. Hell, you could analyze the guy who ambushes Ellie and which group he might belong to, but it wouldn't shock me if his character model is merely a replacement to hide the real perpetrator. Ultimately, that leaves us with two big questions we can at least speculate about. Who is it Ellie is after, and why? One thing is obvious, something drastic would have to happen for Ellie to lose it this badly. Keep in mind, she's grown up in the apocalypse, knows no other world than this one, and has seen a lot of stuff already. Her friend Riley was bitten and turned in her presence, she saw Sam become infected, after which Henry shot him and committed suicide, and she completely butchered David after he attempted to assault her. All these events already left a massive impact on her, yet she was always able to move on eventually. In comparison, Deena's potential murder may definitely carry the biggest weight of them all, but it's important to put these things into perspective. Because I can also picture a few other scenarios that would warrant the reaction just as much, and those are the following. Number 1 is that Deena betrays Ellie. The likelihood for this seems low at first sight, given that according to Naughty Dog, she arrived at the camp before Ellie ever did and has been her best friend for several years already. Then again, it's possible that in that time she eventually learns about her secret and spills the beans to other people. In an attempt to capture her, she tries to get even closer to Ellie, only to bluntly highlight how unforgiving we know the world of The Last of Us can be. Wearing Deena's bracelet may actually serve not as a reminder for her death, but as a reminder for who it is she's after. Number 2 would be Joel's death. I know it sounds improbable, especially with the scene this trailer ends on, but he's the only character that, despite the distance currently between them, still means the world to Ellie. His death would have a colossal effect on her well-being. That being said, we have now witnessed Joel's return. Previewers saw the same scene in their game, so let's just say that the odds are looking pretty low. Finally, the third theory isn't gonna be a pleasant one to discuss, but Ellie could have become a victim of sexual assault. This reality was hinted at by Marlene at the end of the first game already, convincing Joel that if he would take her back, she'd be raped and murdered within no time anyway.
You can't save her. Even if you get her out of here, then what? How long before she's torn to pieces by a pack of clickers? That is, if she hasn't been raped and murdered first.
Considering this possibility, it is rather unsettling looking back at the trailer and seeing Ellie overpowered by two people who are sitting on top of her while she begs them to please stop. Whether in combination with killing Deena or not, I think she would do anything to find the people responsible and bring justice to them once and for all. The shaking hands, which have now been emphasized on twice, may be a sign of PTSD, which has developed after these events. Then again, maybe I'm just looking into it too much. But this rape theory is one I'd like to further explore, because its consequences could be interesting in many different ways. One way or another, we know for certain that one character in this game is pregnant. During the PSX panel of 2017, Neil Druckmann teased the following.
After the first day, Ellie goes home and talks to her husband, and she's like, I think I got someone pregnant.
Now here's the catch, this panel took place mere months after the second teaser for the game was released. In it, we saw a mysterious new character who managed to avoid meeting her very dark demise with the help of two companions. Physical similarities, combined with Naughty Dog teasing a 4-character name, made it the popular theory back then, and still to this day, that this is Ellie's mom Anna, in an earlier timeline where we'll discover more about her past. The cult members seemed to perform some strange ritual on the brink of opening up her belly, as she was, according to them, infested with sin, which only strengthened the speculation that she was pregnant with Ellie at the time. However, we have now seen other characters, including a bunch of men, who the same ritual is performed upon, disproving this entire matter. I'm pretty convinced Neil used this opportunity to further reinforce beliefs that this is indeed the pregnant character, so we'd avoid asking questions in the future. In the meantime, you may recall an Easter egg in Uncharted 4, showing a poster with a pregnant character very resembling to Ellie. She carries a backpack, wears similar clothes, and in her hand holds a revolver, Joel's signature weapon. Even gameplay-wise, The Last of Us Part 2 is set up for this to potentially take its toll. A lot of its new mechanics are based on agility. Ellie can go prone, jump from platform to platform, and generally move around with more ease than Joel ever could before. I can imagine it being an interesting idea if over the course of the game, abilities, instead of being added, would be taken away from you. The 9-month pregnancy cycle would fit perfectly with The Last of Us's seasonal approach, assuming once more it inherits this from the first game. But I should really stop right here. You can see how easy it is with any theory to go down the rabbit hole.
Watch your backs.
Having established the potential reasons for Ellie's fury, we currently know of 3 groups who might be the target of her hunt. The most obvious one would be the Seraphites. It's the cult we just touched upon, not only seen in the second teaser, but also in the gameplay demo, where Ellie made her way through Seattle, but found herself caught up in the middle of the group. They are quite easy to recognize by their appearance alone. Women all wear their hair in similar braided style, while every male member of the group is bald, and all of them feature scars on their cheeks, presumably as some initiation ritual. Again, Naughty Dog is putting these guys at the forefront right now, but that may be a trap all the same. I find it complicated to connect the Seraphites, who so far we've only seen operate in isolation from Seattle, to the substantial event in Jackson that should cause Ellie to lose it. Next up is the Washington Liberation Front, or the WLF for short, a new faction we came to know about just recently. They also operate from Seattle and guard the territory as Ellie tries to make her way through the city. If you'd ask me, the description of this group already gives away that they're not as important, namely they are apparently xenophobic and will kill any trespassers. Rather than actually serving a purpose to the story, I think this idea came to exist more out of a gameplay perspective. Had they instead welcomed newcomers, then the practical consequence would be that you as the player wouldn't have as many combat scenarios to go through. It also allows for additional conflict, not just with Ellie, but with the Seraphites who see the WLF as their enemies and for simplicity's sake call them wolves. But lastly, there is one group looming over the entire story arc, yet we've heard so little about: the Fireflies. At the end of The Last of Us Part 1, it is implicated that there aren't all too many left, but that doesn't mean those who are hold a piece of information that is way too crucial to be ignored altogether in this next part. They know that Ellie is still out there. She's the cure to the virus, and they may as well want to hunt down Joel in the process to take revenge for Marlene's death themselves. It would be completely illogical if the remaining Fireflies didn't have at least some role to play within this story. Could it be that they have come to find where Ellie's holding up? That they kill whoever she's with but aren't able to bring her along before she escapes or is rescued by allies from a camp? As long as the Fireflies are still out there, Ellie and everyone around her are forever at risk. Coming to that revelation and experiencing another traumatizing event might just be enough to drive her off the deep end. There are a couple of other clues that could hint towards the Fireflies being the actual target here. As already discussed, it is Tommy who Ellie speaks to and may be accompanied by at first. Interesting to note is that Tommy was a former Firefly himself, so he might hold specific intel for it to make sense she's having this conversation with him instead of Joel. That leads us back to Ellie's mom Anna, who was a great friend of Marlene, who in turn used to be the leader of the Fireflies. It's unknown but assumable that she joined the group while she was still alive. If Anna is indeed the mysterious woman, it adds even more purpose for them to play a larger role within this story. And even though Marlene has felt greatly attached to Ellie all her life, she explains in the cassette tapes how she doubted she had much of a choice but to give the go-ahead on Ellie's surgery, suggesting her lack of power when it comes to this particular matter, as the entire group of Fireflies seemed hell-bent on finding the cure. I could only imagine that 5 years later they still very much are. The very first thing we saw of this game was a signpost containing the Fireflies logo and an outraged Ellie who just killed everyone near it she could find. Thinking back to this moment, suddenly it doesn't seem so hard to picture them being the target of this all. Simultaneously, it would be a more realistic goal as well. The idea of Ellie taking on an entire cult group seems less sensible than taking down a group she knows has already significantly reduced in size.
'Cause I'm wrong.
What are you doing, kiddo? You really gonna go through with this?
I'm gonna find. And I'm gonna kill every last one of them.
But in the end, I don't know the answers either, and so like everyone else, I'm left continuously questioning my own theories. Does Deena betray Ellie, or is the reality as simple as her getting captured or killed? What is the true cause for Ellie's journey, and could it be the Seraphites or WLF she is in fact after instead? Where does the different timeline come into play with the mysterious woman? Is it Ellie's mom Anna, or is it someone else entirely? And if that's the case, what holds us back from thinking it couldn't even be Ellie's own daughter way into the future? Therefore, my goal with this video wasn't necessarily to provide more clarity, but in fact to show you the wide depth of possibilities that are still left open, and that contrary to the beliefs of some people, little can be ruled out as of yet. We are slowly able to put together bits and pieces, only making it easier to veer off on our own ideas. I could picture this amazing storyline of duality, between a scarred woman escaping from a cult and finding solace at the Fireflies, while years later her daughter seeks to destroy the same group once and for all. I'm intrigued by the concept of an ending which refers back to the first one, where Ellie can finally come to terms with Joel's lie only when she brings forth a child of her own. But as these thoughts pop up in my mind, I realize it once again. Tunnel vision is also something to which I am prone. To make these videos possible, your support is vital. If you enjoy all the content I create, please consider supporting me over at patreon.com/robingaming. For just $1 per month, not only do you help me in bringing you high quality and fully independent content like this, but you also gain early access to each video and other cool rewards. In the current climate of YouTube, where sponsorships and clickbait are the norm, I hope I can count on your help to keep these videos going. Thanks for your support.